Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. Join Stewart Heath for down-to-earth conversations with top professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders who have a story to tell. Let's get rolling.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stewart Heath, CEO and founder of Harvard Grace Capital, and I'm the host of your show, the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. We are very blessed to have with us a guest, Joel Okaah, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
He is a Nashville native like I am, and he is in the real estate business, property management business, and we're going to talk with him and about his success and and how he managed difficulties and all that kind of stuff that all we entrepreneurs face as we go through our careers. So, Joel, thanks a lot for taking the time out to be here today.
Stewart, man, I really appreciate you having me on. It's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you. The honor is ours. So let's get into it. Joel, when you think back on your career, are there any moments that you would say were game changers for you?
Yeah, it's hard to boil it down to just a few, because I feel like when you're talking about career and entrepreneurship, there are always evolutions to it and things that change the game for you. But if I had to pick one simple thing, it was actually adopting the identity that I am an entrepreneur. Sometimes I feel like it can be difficult, especially in today's world with media and technology, and seeing people who are 5, 10, 15 years ahead of you and seeing their business and their success and saying, I'm not there yet. So until I get there, I'm a fraud. I can't say that I'm an entrepreneur. I can't say that I'm a business owner. And so once I started to, I had a mentor tell me one time that I really had to do a lot of mental reframing in how I looked at things and how I perceived certain situations to be able to adopt the right identity. Because until we walk in the authority of the thing that God has called us to, we're not going to have we're not going to be able to take ground, if that makes sense.
Yep,
And
totally.
so for me, the smallest thing for me was just really getting that identity shift and that reframe of, I am an entrepreneur. I am a business owner, and wearing that hat, even if I didn't believe it, even if I didn't feel it, it was something that I was saying to myself each and every day until it became something that was second nature for me. And when that did, it began to shift the way that I looked at my business and the way that I actually interacted with customers and guests and vendors and things of that nature. And so that's probably the biggest thing for me, is just adopting the correct identity, adopting the correct mindset in order to move into a season or into a situation that you've never been in before.
I absolutely love that. I love that. As a matter of fact, our last guest was a friend of mine named Chris Kelso. And what you're talking about is the imposter syndrome.
Yes.
It's getting a lot of attention these days. And he wrote a book called Overcoming the Imposter. And it's all about this, the lies we tell ourselves, especially entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurism is first and foremost a mindset.
Yeah.
It's a mindset before you ever generate $1 of revenue,
Right.
And every day you got to get up and you got to fight your own psychology. Who are you? You're not a business person,
Yep.
And I've been in business 40 years. I still fight it every day. So,
man, that's wild.
It is wild. It is wild. Thank you. I mean, you got deep really quick, and that's good. That's great, Joel. So so as an entrepreneur, I'm certain that you've hit a bump or two in the road, or just call it something that was unexpected. Can you share one with us and how you dealt with it?
Yeah. So, man, when I think about, there's been plenty. So many. I mean, you've been in business 40 years, so unexpected things come up all the time. probably one of the most recent things that came up was I thought I was going to close a deal on a new management contract. We had great conversations. We met, thought everything was going in that direction, made some plans based on that new management contract that was going to come in. It was going to allow us to do a couple of things in the business that I've been wanting to do a little bit more of in terms of like marketing and actually getting some help with some stuff in the business. So we were counting on that revenue, and the contract out of nowhere just fell through. Never heard from them, and that was kind of it. And so it was crushing at the time, because I mean, whenever you feel like you're about to bring a deal across the goal line and it's at that 1 yard line mark and you start making the plans and it doesn't go through, it's tough. But it taught me a lot about just resiliency in business. What I believe at the root of entrepreneurship is a heart of trying to solve problems.
Hmm.
This is why I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship. I think the world, America, we need entrepreneurs. I don't believe that the government is going to save everybody and do all of those things. I think entrepreneurs are a big piece of solving a lot of the world's problems. And so when you get into this game of entrepreneurship and you're met with these issues, you can do one of two things. You can tuck your toe between your legs and get into the victim mindset really quickly and woe is me. And I thought this was going to come through. God, why me? Like, why didn't this happen? Or you figure out another way around it. And that's the name of the game. There is no business that exists without problems. I don't care if you're Google, Apple, Amazon, Elon Musk, and all his companies. Every business has its issues and its problems. And once you solve one, another one pops up and you got to go solve that one, right? And it's this
There are
cycle of
more problems that come from growth than there does anything.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly,
Most of them
exactly.
we never saw coming. That's right.
100%, 100%. And so like what I realized, Stuart, in that time is it was actually a blessing in disguise that that contract didn't come through, because as you grow, complexity naturally comes with that. And there were some operational things within our business that had we had this contract signed, the deliverables on our end would have been a little bit strenuous for us because we didn't have SOPs in certain areas that we needed to have in order to actually onboard this new client smoothly. And so it was one of those things where I feel like the door gets shut and can get shut sometimes for your protection.
Hmm.
In the moment, you don't see it sometimes, a lot of times for me. But hindsight's always 2020. When I look back at it now, it's like, man, thank God that contract didn't go through, because it probably would have been a nightmare trying to onboard this person. They would have been frustrated.
Yep.
Expectations probably would have been unmet. And so in between that time and now, we've since added those things that I believe will and actually do help new owners come into our ecosystem. And so that's probably the most recent challenge for us.
Yeah. Well, it won't be your last one. I mean,
No.
we had one last month, and what we do is we're real estate private equity, and
Hmm.
I think I'm about to get the contract on buying a new property, and
Hmm.
then they start ghosting you, and you know maybe it's a year or 3 months or whatever, and either the property's back on the market or you heard it burnt down or something.
That's exactly
They
right.
they usually do end up being blessings in disguise. So
100%.
yeah, but yeah, it's so hard to plan when especially when you're sort of counting on the revenue. But
Yeah,
it's just part of the everyday ups and downs, the psychological roller coaster of your everyday entrepreneur. So,
100%. I totally agree with that.
so being an entrepreneur and being a leader in your industry and in business, how do you tackle learning new things? What is your personal regime of staying current and learning new stuff?
Oh man, great question. So for me, it it's just starts with my routine. I'm extremely regimented. You mentioned me being early to the podcast. I'm very, very particular about time. And so I'm married. I got three boys. And so my life is very, very full.
Yeah.
And so for me, my day starts at 4 a.m. And that's where I'm getting up. I am spending time in my scriptures. I'm spending time praying. I'm spending time with the Lord. And then from there, I go right to the gym for an hour. And then I come back home, eat some breakfast, spend some time with the family, and then typically get right into work. And so I say all that to say, in terms of learning and how I do it, it comes in a few different ways. On the way to the gym and anytime I'm in the car, I don't listen to music a ton. That is my time to get into podcasts. That is my time to get into learning mode. So anytime I'm on the road, I'm learning. I'm constantly trying to reinforce things that I know to be true, or I'm constantly trying to learn new things that I don't have a lot of skill in or don't have a lot of knowledge in. And the car is the best way for me to do it because I don't have screaming boys in the back needing something from me. And then also I read a lot too. I read a lot of the reading that I do is going to be around psychology and mindset. For me and where I'm at right now, it's very, very important that my mindset is in the right set in the right place. Reframing different perspectives that don't prove to be true or prove to be helpful for me. And then in terms of like learning new skills and getting up in my industry specifically, like I'm a part of a mastermind. So I get to be around people who are better than me, further along than me. I can ask them questions. I'm on webinars, things of that nature. But honestly, most of the learning within my business comes from trial and error and just doing it, right? Because I have been in a situation earlier on in my career where you read all the books, you gain all this knowledge, but the knowledge doesn't do anything for you unless you put it to action. And so I actually had to at one point scale back on the amount of reading and information I was taking in and actually go do the doing because the doing still needs done. And a lot of times the feedback loop is going to be way, way faster by going and doing something in your business, making a mistake, asking questions, figuring out the right solution for it, marking that down and remembering it for the next time. So when you do see a similar situation, it's like, been there, done that. I actually experienced it, and now I know how to overcome that thing. And for me, it's way different doing it that way than actually like reading a book about it or listening to a podcast about it. And so it's fascinating because I have this whole philosophy around. I believe entrepreneurs have to go in there and actually like make mistakes, fail. Like you got to fall on your face and feel that rather than trying to avoid every mistake possible known to man because you read a book of someone who's in your same field and they're giving you the shortcut, they're giving you the game. And so you just do it like this and you won't ever have a hiccup. I don't know that I buy into that philosophy because there's something about falling on your face and actually understanding what it feels to be met with challenge and met with adversity and find out who you are in those moments. Because who you are, Stewart, is not the person when we're talking about you being on the mountaintop, the deal goes through, you get a 20%, 30%, 40% return on a deal that you put together. It's not that. It's when the deal goes south. It's when and people maybe have lost money, maybe you've lost money. It's like, okay, who am I in that moment? Because a lot of that is the driving force in terms of who you're going to be as an entrepreneur moving forward. Because if you don't know how to deal with challenges, if you don't understand what it feels like to lose or learn, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to be successful in your career because I've never met a successful entrepreneur that hasn't had to deal with those adversities. And so it's like flipping the script from reading all these things and learning all this stuff to avoid mistakes to like actually bolting that onto you taking action into things and taking some risk in certain areas in your business. You don't know if it's going to work out or not, but you got to try. And if you fall on your face, it's okay because you either win or you learn. You only lose if you quit, if you stop going. But if you can pick yourself up and continue to move forward, I think there's a lot of value in that and tenacity in terms of who you are when the going gets tough. And so, long-winded answer in terms of how I learn and take on new challenges. It's in a multifaceted approach between podcast reading and then mainly going out in taking my business to the market and trying new things, trying to be innovative, whether it's from a sales perspective or a marketing perspective or a messaging perspective. It all depends. But I learn a lot more and a lot faster by just playing and being curious within my own business.
I love that. One of my favorite quotes is "Fail fast and fail forward."
That's right.
And to your point, it's great to read and learn from other people's mistakes, but you got to make sure what you're learning was the actual lesson they learned to not avoid. Because sometimes you might come to the wrong conclusion. You're never going to be an entrepreneur and not do some failing. I mean, anybody who's successful at anything, not just being an entrepreneur, athletes, entertainers, actors, musicians, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And we learn a lot more from failing than we do from success.
That's exactly right.
It's just the way God made the world.
Mm-hmm.
Any particular podcasts you're fond of and would recommend, or any books or anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a long list. Long list. One of my favorite books here, The Self-Aware Leader. I can't really see it, by John Maxwell, is really great. Yeah. I love Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss, great book. Winning at Sales. My buddy Taylor Welch wrote that book. Really great book there. Podcasts that I lean into. Craig Rochelle's leadership podcast is really great. There's a podcast called The Game. Alex Hormozy, Business Principles, really great. His wife Layla has a podcast as well. I forget what it's called. But hers is good too. And then I listen to a lot of sermons too. I try to make sure that I'm feeding my spirit first and foremost before I'm feeding my mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's pivot a little bit to personal investing. Don't share any numbers or anything, but just share which asset classes you like. Are you investing in crypto, art, stamps, stocks, bonds? How did you do on the Trump trade as of this week? With were you in the market for it to go up with the election results and stuff like that? Just talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, it's I feel like my philosophy has changed quite a bit, and it'll probably continue to change as the world changes as well. So for me, it was real estate, multifamily. We've invested in some of that, but then now more recently, it's actually business, cash flowing business. Real estate is, I find, a great asset class to hold your wealth, but it's in terms of wealth creation and cash flow. Unless you've got a ton of money or a lot of time has passed, it's very, very hard to have meaningful cash flow up front. So for me, in my age, investing in cash flowing businesses is something that I'm looking into. It's an asset that you can control a lot more than real estate. For example, like rents and things of that nature can only go up so much, and it depends on the market. But I can sell a product or service as many times as I want and increase cash flow that way. So I'm really, really big into investing in businesses and even side hustles as well. I'm really big into, because I think that we all have natural proclivities or gifts that we don't have to try as hard to do. And sometimes you can turn those gifts into, like, monetize those gifts and use that as a vehicle to create some passive income. So I've got a friend who installs wallpaper. She's incredible at it. And people want to give her money to go do it. Right. So it's things like that. That I'm big into as well. I've not gotten into crypto or anything like that, and mainly because I don't understand it. I'm a big believer in not putting my money into anything that I don't understand. I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. I just don't get it. And honestly, I haven't spent any time like studying it. I do have like insurance policies and stuff like that that I've invested in. as well. So my biggest thing right now with where I'm at is uh, increasing my skills over time and creating more income that way. And then once you can do that, then you can start investing in things, taking risk in things and stuff like that. That's just where I am in my investment journey. It's more so like investing in me. So that's whether that's masterminds or courses or things like that that can grow the thing that I feel like I have a gap in order to increase my level of income once applied.
Good. Very thoughtful. I'm with you on crypto. I'm like, yeah, I don't understand it.
I don't get it.
Sure, sure wish I'd had some on Tuesday,
Oh yeah.
it went up with the Trump, but I wouldn't have held it very long. So,
Yeah.
I don't think it's really a currency, and to me, it just seems like it's a security of some kind. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah.
all right, we're down to our last question. Um, and given what you've said so far, this is going to be a good one for you as well. If you're mentoring somebody, or if you are somebody just wants to follow in your footsteps, what one thing would you share with them as a piece of advice
From an entrepreneurial standpoint or
from any standpoint? Yeah, I guess entrepreneurial because they're following in
yeah.
your footsteps. So
Yeah. Yeah. One piece of advice. One piece of advice I would say if I'm mentoring someone, especially if they're younger than me, is to say yes to opportunities that come your way because you never know where those opportunities will lead. And I say that to say this, Stuart, like where I'm at today is simply because I just said yes. So I knew nothing about real estate. I knew nothing about I knew nothing about it at all. So my background and my skill set actually was in the strength and conditioning world. I have a kinesiology degree. I coached. I was an assistant coach for the Tennessee Titans. That's what originally moved me here to Nashville. Then I moved on from there to another gym that I was coaching at. And one of the guys that I was training, I didn't know this at the time, but he is a huge real estate investor, works at a commercial investment firm, and he reached out to me one day and was like, "Hey, do you want to make an extra $1,000 a month?" And I'm 25 or something at the time. I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, what do you need?" And then this is when he begins telling me and teaching me about like property management. He's telling me like I've got this portfolio of rentals. I need you to go and check on the properties, walk the properties, make sure they look okay. If tenants call in with any issues, I just need you to handle those issues. Send the appropriate vendor out there. I just need you to manage this. Can you do this? And I'll pay you. I'll pay you to do it. And I said absolutely. Had no idea what I was saying yes to. And so enter into this world of property management, my phone ringing and walking these properties and actually sitting down and meeting with him. And I'm like, oh, like you're kind of a big deal. Like I had no idea you did any of this stuff or were involved in all these things. And now you've brought me into your world. And so a simple yes to making an extra $1,000 a month actually led me to my first business, which was what we're doing right now. I would have never been where I'm at today having a short-term rental management company had I not said yes to that opportunity back then. And so even if it doesn't look like you expect it to look or feel like you expect it to feel, you never know where a yes could lead you, especially when you're young. You have nothing to lose. All you have is time. I would just say yes and figure out if you like the thing. If you don't like the thing, you'll never know unless you actually say yes to opportunities and then build your skill set from there.
I wish some of my older sons were listening to this right now. They've always got they have a problem for every solution, and frankly, a lot of that generation does, and
Mm.
I call them the COVID generation.
Oh
And,
boy.
yeah, and frankly, the world didn't treat them very nice.
Yeah,
If you were uh, getting out of college or still in high school during COVID, anyway,
totally.
but they don't want to say yes to anything. And yes is not a lifetime commitment.
It's not.
Say yes and go find out more. I think my first question would have been, $1,000 a month. Is it legal?
I said yes. Yeah. 100%. I said yes with zero hesitation. $1,000 a month, of course. I'm 25. Right. Like, I'm not making a lot of money anyway, so an extra 1,000, yeah. What do you mean?
I mean, that was a lot of money. But I'm like, here I am. I'm in my 60s. Yeah, what have I got? I'll do it. Might send one of my kids, but
exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, man. There's opportunity all around us, man, and I just think that we can just we need to be able to just seize opportunity. I think, especially with how fast the world is changing, you just never know. And the beautiful thing about this life is it's an adventure, and sometimes. Every time when you're walking, especially, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of your listeners are faith-filled, and God asks us to walk in faith and obedience.
Yep.
And I tell people all the time, the best things in life are on the other side of risk.
Yeah.
If you want to experience an incredible life, if you want to experience everything God has for you, there's going to require some risk. There's going to require you to step into some arena without you knowing what the outcome is. There's going to require you to be in covenant partnership with God. And what does that mean? That means God is always going to do his part every single time. Are you going to do yours?
Proverbs, Jeremiah 29:11, man.
That's it.
I know the plans I have for you.
That's right.
And we just have to assume that he's behind those opportunities.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Dude, Joel, thank you so much for taking your time out. And I know what time comes to you. So I'm even more grateful for your time. How can somebody get in touch with you if they'd like to reach out to you after this podcast?
Yeah. I'm on social media platforms, Joel Okaah 6. You'll find me on all the social media platforms, Joel Okaah on LinkedIn. I'm not hard to find at all. So yeah.
We'll make sure that that's all spelled out in the show notes for anybody, and we'll put the links in there for those. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you to the audience for watching this episode of the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. Watch for the next episode and leave us your comments and let us know how we can help. If you've got a guest you'd like for us to interview, send that along too. We'd love to talk with them. Again, Joel, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Stewart.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growth, Grace, and Prosperity podcast. If you'd like to be a guest, visit growthgraceprosperity.com/guest. We'd love to hear your story.